Yo, this is the anatomy for a 5-year-old. This is literally the only video you'll ever need for your anatomy, what exercises to do, how am I going to build muscle, the security in your entire fitness journey. This is all you're going to need to know. You know, you always question, oh my God, is this exercise working? Is it worth it to do flat bench? Oh my God, what's better, this tricep exercise or that tricep exercise? And this all is confusing as fuck. And especially as a young teenager, when you've got so much shit going on, you've got studies to do, revision, essays, exams, you've got lessons that you don't even want to go to that you're going to have to go through, that you're half debating, skipping, right? You've got sports, extracurricular activities, you want to still be friends with people, you don't want to be like a social like loner, and you want to have a lively friend group, and you've got a holiday in like 4 weeks and shit like that. You've got so much shit to worry about, yeah? This is the last thing that you want to worry about. You want to learn about what exercises to do, what gym workout to do, pick it, do it every single time you have to train, and then just not think about it ever again. That's what you want to do. And this is what will allow you to do that. There's so many thoughts taken up in your brain that you honestly don't need, that's causing you to overthink. And that way you're going to change exercises all the time. You're going to go from flat bench to now flies, to now dumbbell press, to now machine press. And then it's like, oh my God, you can't even track progressive overload. Now you're not making any progress, right? That's the whole point. And that's why you're going to get unmotivated and then quit. So this video is going to fix all that for you. Anatomy for a 5-year-old. Basically, learn how your body moves so you can grow. Get big in your teens to CSC. Cuck a stupid chud. I think that's what it means. I've recorded this like 4 times, so I've kind of forgot what it means. But yeah, get big in your teens so you can cuck a stupid chud. I don't know, I just thought it was fucking funny. Basically, get one. By Ryder, aka me, Toxic Sigma teacher. I'm not the average teacher. I'm not a teacher that is 40 years out of his prime and has not exercised for 30 years, that's somehow still teaching PE. My fucking PE teacher, by the way, had modified suspension on his car because he was that fat. I don't want to let you know that. That was my PE teacher. What the actual fuck is wrong with schools, right? My PE teacher had modified suspension because he was morbidly obese and he was addicted to pasta. Right, I'm a bit better than that, right? I'm actually in shape. I'm still a teenager myself. I'm still going through this shit, and I'm going to teach you the lessons that I learned on the way to building my most attractive physique that I've got to date. 71 kg. I don't want to say my body fat percentage because, to be honest with me, I don't fucking know. But I'm lean as fuck, right? And I've not got an alcohol addiction. I've not got like, I don't want to like practice my authority by shouting at you. I'm not an average teacher, right? I'm going to actually teach you this shit, and you're going to actually learn it in one video. I don't know how long it's going to be, right? But you're going to learn this shit, and you're going to get huge, right? This is going to be one of those valuable videos you ever watch on fitness ever in your entire life. So, without further ado, bro, let's go. Let's see if it'll actually let me go to the next slide. Why you need to understand anatomy. So basically, anatomy is how your body is set up, your muscles, how they work, what are their functions. And if you know the function of a muscle, basically what it does, so your chest does that. If you know this, then you know the correct movements that you have to do to then build muscle, because all like lifting is moving your muscles in the way that it's supposed to under heavy load, and that's how they grow, right? The reason why when you do a lat raise your shoulders grow is because that shoulder muscle is being used for its function. It's being something called activated, right? Your quads don't grow when you do a lat raise because the muscle in your quad isn't being activated. I don't know, maybe you do it in a weird way, where you swing up like this and you're basically doing knee extension, but I don't question it. The normal way of doing a lat raise doesn't activate your quads, right? So that's how the muscles grow, and that's why you need to understand anatomy. Basically, you'll question everything on your fitness journey, i.e. pains and niggles, exercise selection. That was a fucking close call, right? I had a lad, right? My boy Ollie, right? He's editing this video. You can say hi if you want. He was doing a rear delt fly, okay? And he was holding it like this and moving the arm backwards, which is what you do to do a rear delt fly, okay? I don't know how new you are. And he was experiencing some pain. He was like, shit, man, I'm hearing some pain in, like, I don't even think it was in his rear delt. Like, obviously, if you get, like, what's the word? Like, if you're muscle fatigued during the set and you get pain because you're pushing to failure and it's a hard set, that's different. But he was getting some sort of pain that was, you know, nothing to do with the weight that he was lifting, nothing to do with achieving failure. It was kind of like, you know, we should fucking stop, right? And he was kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do, like it's hurting, and like it's some pain, like I don't want to push through it in case I get an injury. And he didn't know whether he could change his grip or not. And he found out when he changed his grip that it felt a lot nicer for his arm. He didn't get anywhere near as much pain. But if you don't understand anatomy, and he asked me this question, right? Obviously, if I didn't understand anatomy and given this advice, he would have just carried on with the same grip because he would have thought, right, if I change grip, like I'm not going to be able to like make any muscle with doing a rear delt fly. Like it's fucking stupid. Like just in case I'm not going to change anything. Injured himself, torn his rotator cuff or some bullshit, and then like not being able to train like upper body for like a month, 2 months, right? And you know how hard it is to get back into something when you took a month or two off break. The reason why it's so easy to stay consistent while you already be consistent is because you build up momentum, right? So when you lose that by for an injury or some shit, it's so fucking difficult. It just stalls your progress. So we can just avoid that by understanding anatomy. And also exercise selection. You'll question absolutely everything. Oh my God, does flat bench work? Oh my God, should I do dumbbell press instead? Oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And all of a sudden, you're changing exercises every 1 to 3 weeks. And I don't know if you know this, but the only way you're going to know if you're making progress is progressive overload. Now, what that means is progressive overload. Progressive, like getting better. Overload, more weight. So if you are increasing the amount of reps or weight you do over an extended period of time, you know you're getting stronger and therefore getting bigger, because a lot of people like to think that muscle size and strength doesn't correlate, which is retarded. Of course it does. But I don't know, it's this confusion with powerlifting and bodybuilding being separate sports, and like lighter powerlifters being able to lift more than bodybuilders, which obviously is the case because bodybuilders aren't training to a 1 rep max, they are. That gives it some like sort of confusion, but in general, the size of your muscles correlates with the size of your strength, okay? We're in the same individual. So if you're the same person, which you are, and you're doing a bicep curl 6 months ago, 6 months later, if you've gotten stronger in the bicep curl when the form's the same, then that's very important, by the way, when the form's the same. It doesn't count if you like cheat a rep up and you get an extra rep. No, because that's not you using the muscle to lift it. It's you using momentum or something like that, right? So the form has to stay the same. And if you've gotten stronger, more often than likely, your muscles have gotten bigger, right? Because you're the same person and the form stayed the same. So if you've gotten stronger, muscles bigger, more area, boom, lift more weight, okay? And if you're not seeing this happen, then you know you're not making progress, because you can't really see progress visually, right? You know how this works, right? I'm not sure how long you've been going to the gym, but if you don't know this, when you've been lifting, right, and you've been lifting for 4-6 months, it's weird how progress happens. At the beginning, it's quite quick and it's quite quick to notice, but as you get bigger and bigger, the progress slows down, and you'll get like these periods where for like 2-3 weeks you'll see nothing, like no difference whatsoever, because you're looking at your body all of the time. You will see genuinely no difference whatsoever, and then one random day, it's so weird, everything just fucking clicks, right? And one day you're just instantly leaner or instantly bigger. This happened to me this morning. I've tried to record this video like 4 times across like 3 days. This morning I woke up and I was like, shit, I'm fucking leaner than normal. What the fuck? I'll take it. And it's not because of like, you know, you've been drinking so you're dehydrated. No, I haven't drank in a while, right? So it's genuinely because of the progress I've made. And it's because your results lag. So what do you do during those periods where you see no progress? Because it can be really demotivating. It's progressive overload. But when you are questioning what exercises to do because you don't understand anatomy, you will change exercises so frequently that you then can't track progressive overload. The reason why you can track progressive overload is because it's the same form with the same exercise with the same, or preferably, the weight is going up. When you change exercises, you know this, right? You can do a different weight for a dumbbell press than you can with bench. Bench is usually a lot stronger. You can do a lot less weight on a machine press, right? Because you're fixed in place, you're probably not ego lifting, and it's probably loaded a bit more difficultly. The resistance profiles are quite different. So the weight you can do on different exercises are so different, and you don't know how like they correlate, right? You don't know if 80 kg is equivalent to like 20 kg fucking dumbbell press. You don't know, right? Because it's different for different people. So if you change exercises and the weight's changing for those exercises, you can't track if you're getting stronger or not, because you don't know how they correlate. So that's why you fucking get so demotivated and like, oh shit, man, like I don't know if I'm making progress, because you question if you're working the muscle correctly because you don't know anything about anatomy. Then you change the exercise because of novelty and you want to see if it works. Then you can't track progressive overload. Then you get demotivated, and then you quit because you're a fucking chud, basically, right? You're an overthinker, change all the exercises and quitting. Anatomy helps you battle this because it helps you make decisions of what exercises work. You're not questioning everything because you know that what works and what doesn't, and then you can then pick the exercises which affects your growth and you can grow more. And that position you're in where you know what exercise you're doing, you know it's going to build your muscle if you perform it correctly, and all you have to focus on is, can I get one more rep today? It becomes that easy that you're never going to stop going, because if you do get that one extra rep, you know you're going to grow, right? So if you put all your focus into that, you will achieve that extra rep and you will grow. I hated the gym when I just didn't know what exercises work, and I really did. I remember I was sat in my leisure centre gym, scroll on this one random guy's TikTok page for like 30 minutes in between my sets, right? My sets got like way longer rest breaks than I should have, right? Like, because I was scrolling on his account, not keeping track of what time was going by, seeing what back exercises worked for your back whilst I was doing a back workout. Like, it's insane. Like, I just kept thinking like, oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And that whole mindset made the gym so much less enjoyable. And again, enjoyment's going to be the biggest factor for you to stay consistent. You have to enjoy it. It's all right saying, yeah, I want to get leave from a holiday in a month or whatever. But think about the long term. You're only going to have drastic changes 2-3 years down the line, right? Let's say you're in like year 10, year 11 right now. By the time you leave sixth form, right? So year 13, 3 years down the line, you're going to be jacked. So you need to stay in the game consistently for 3 years. And the way you do that is through enjoyment. And you get enjoyment weirdly by knowing that you're doing it right, by getting better at the skill. So that's what anatomy helps you do. So basically, just know how to move to grow. Know how to put your body in the correct positions so that you grow. Target the actual muscle you're trying to target so you don't quit like a fucking chud. That's basically it, right? So that's why you need to know anatomy. So let's go. And the bonus is, in case you need convincing, because you're an absolute retard, helps with your studies in A-levels, right? So I did biology and PE at A-level, and obviously this only applies if you do them sort of similar subjects, but anatomy ties into them subjects a lot, right? So like, I think 50% of my physical education A-level was anatomy and physiology modules. 50%. So if you already have a background knowledge based on something you enjoy, like weightlifting, right? You're going to then be, one, ahead of your class, because you're like, I already know this in terms of weightlifting, so I can just translate it into other things that they're talking about. And two, like, you're going to associate it with it. And when you associate like some sort of study with like something you enjoy, like weightlifting, like bodybuilding, like anatomy and training and building muscle, you're going to automatically want to learn about that subject so much more. And that is what's going to get you good grades. I always got the worst grades in English, and I thought English was bullshit. You know, the people that sit there, it reminds me of like science-based lifters and bullshit and like philosophy readers when they sit there and like, what did he mean by this sentence? Curly's dress was red, that meant she was a slag. No, she just decided to put on a red dress today. That sort of shit was like, that sort of shit, I hate it. I fucking hate it. So I never revised, and I always revised English poorly, which is why I got my worst grade, which was a B. A B was my worst grade. I've never got lower than a B in my life, so you should listen to me about studies, okay? I'm not even that intelligent in the grand scheme of things. I remember this lad sat across me from maths and made me look like an absolute retard every day. I hated him. So I'm not even that intelligent, right? And I got no less than a B in my grades because I knew how to study. And half of the battle of studying is actually getting yourself to do it by enjoying it, or at least doing it properly and well enough, right? And if you know about anatomy from building muscle, it will then be like, oh yeah, this is what this does. And oh yeah, that was similar to what I learned about in this video about building muscle. So I'm going to enjoy it, right? And you're smiling while learning the lesson, which no one ever does. And it's like, that's how you study, right? Other bonuses, it's not overcomplicated. Like most people, when they talk about anatomy and stuff, they start using big words, and there will be some big words in this, like, what do you call it, a slideshow. But like, you don't have to know them. I'll keep prefacing that you don't have to remember them. Like, I'll forget some of the words, but you don't have to know the big words. That's the problem. Some people will look at this and be like, oh my God, he doesn't know the big words, so I'm not going to listen to him. You don't need to know the big word. You just need to know how to train properly, right? You don't have to sit here with the glasses on like me, right? And, you know all the big words and adenosine triphosphate molecule, and you don't need to know any of that, right? So it's fine. You will understand this. It is easy to understand. And then, when you train, which is the interesting part, you only have to learn this once, because when you train, you are constantly reminded of this. I had a massive problem, like long term. So I could revise for studies, right? And I could like memorize things for a couple of weeks so I can prepare for my exams. That's probably why I got good grades. But over like 6 months, over like 12 months, over like a couple of years, like your training is going to last, I would forget a lot of concepts. This is why there's so much shit on my wall. It's been there for months, because I'll get motivated like you are probably right now. You'll watch a video on anatomy in the gym. You're like, yeah, I'm ready to fucking train. You'll change your entire workout routine, and you'll stick to it for like a few weeks. But then like you'll kind of forget about the whole concept, and like in a couple of months you'll be like, oh, I don't really remember, like my training's not feeling well. You probably change all the exercises back to what you were doing, and you'll forget about it. And then you'll come across a video again, a similar one, and reminds you, oh shit, anatomy, and I'm back in. Like, you forget the concept. But the funny thing is with anatomy and stuff like that is, because you're training hopefully 3 to 6 times a week, anywhere between that, you're constantly reminded of this idea when you're training, because you're literally doing the movements, and you'll literally constantly get feelings of, oh shit, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? When you're training. So you only have to learn this once. You don't have to come back to it every fucking so often, because you'll constantly be reminded when you train. And finally, the most important thing is it gives you confidence in your training. You now know what works. You now know you're making progress. You now know you're going to be jacked in a certain amount of time. All you have to do is just be consistent. And that is, I wrote half the battle. It's about 90% of it. Literally, the only difficult parts of lifting is knowing you're doing it right and being consistent. If you could do those 2 things, you will have your dream physique in a couple of years by the time you get into college, leave college, get into uni, leave high school if you're lucky enough to start early enough, right? Like, you can have your dream physique by then, and then you'll get bigger a year later, and a bigger a year later, and it just keeps on going and going and going, and your life gets better, right? I always say fitness is the gateway drug to the rest of your life. It opens your eyes to what you can do. You can change your life. You don't have to be fucking miserable. Your own brain doesn't have to fucking hate you. If you then build your dream physique, you'll literally look in the mirror and be like, I fucking look great. And for the first time in your life, you'll think, fuck, my brain is generating good thoughts about me. I'm flexing in car windows. When have you ever flexed in a car window in your life? Right? Guarantee you'll be happier if you were the type of person that flexed in a car window because he genuinely liked how he looked, right? And this gives you that, right? So let's learn about anatomy. Fuck. Muscles we're talking about. Before anyone in the comments with fucking specky little buck teeth fucking braces gimp says, you've not included every muscle here. You've not talked about the serratus anterior, which is the MMA muscle, which looks really cool. These are all the muscles that actually matter. Your chest, your upper mid lower, your back, your upper back, your lats, your erectors, which are like your lower back, and your traps, these things here. Biceps, there's 2 here because there's 2 heads, right? That's why it's bisexual. Fucking don't even get me started. Triceps, 3 heads, tricycle, right? There's 3 heads on the tricep. Shoulders, front, side, rear delt. Abs, while you're here, quick 5-minute ab video. You want abs, bro? It's fucking 20 degrees heat wave with no aircon. I'm dying, but I've got abs, so it's all worth it, right? Let's get you some. Cool for the summer. Legs. You have to train legs, bro. I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. I'm sorry. I'll give you a quick story, right? Because I think that this is very important. Because most teenagers don't train legs, or like train legs once every 10 days. That's always the same thing. It was the same with me. It was the same guy that I had a call on. It was the same with like the editor here as well, Ollie. We always train legs like once every like 10 days. I don't know why. We set out to do it twice a week. We skip it once a week regularly, and then like we barely even hit it once a week. We'll skip the other session that we were supposed to do, and we'll just hit it once every 10 days. I don't know why that's so common, but there's a lad that I know, right? And he goes to my gym, and he's fucking huge, right? He's as big as me. Maybe not quite, right? But he's quite similar size to me. He's a bit taller than me. Tell me why he's also the same body fat percentage. I don't know precisely, but he's probably about as leaner than me, if not as lean, right? At minimum. He's a bit taller than me as well. Fuck you. And tell me why this guy is 6 kg lighter than me. 6 kg because of his legs. That's insane. You know how much 6 kg is? It's like a dog. Like 6 kg, right? And that's because he didn't train legs properly. And my legs aren't even that like profound. You'll probably look at me and think, oh yeah, he's got small legs as well. And I do. This is my leg muscles that they need to be brought up. And that's because I went through this bullshit as well of like not really training legs for the first 2 years of my fucking fitness journey when I should have, and I have big legs by now. Fuck. I wish I had big quads. I really do. It catches up with you, so please train legs properly. He says the same thing. He hates his small legs. Promise you, make sure your physique looks so much better. Forearms and neck, yes, they matter. These are the muscles that, like, when you stand like this, do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of look kind of swole. These make you look swole when you don't have a shirt on, and that gives you like that some form of respect. You know, obviously, because you're a kid or a teenager or a young adult, you don't get the respect you want. You feel like people don't really talk to you in the way that you want them to. They take the piss out of you in front of your fucking face. They make fun of you behind your back. Even your friends do this. When you go for like job interviews, if you're old enough, or you go into like interviews in college, they kind of like, they look at you all smug and talk to you condescending because you're a teen, you're a young person, you're a fucking young adult. You don't know anything about the world. When you have like big forearms and a big neck, people automatically can't help but give you respect because it is a sign of respect. Like, you've put in hard work, you've shown good qualities to get that point. And people, you're not going to walk around with your fucking top off all the time. So this does matter. All the other muscles are irrelevant. Fuck you. All right, let's go. The chest. I've got a video here. Let's see if it opens. You know, average like PE teacher slide where the fucking PowerPoint link doesn't work. Right, it should be fine. And I'm not gonna be one of those teachers who clicks through the fucking slide really, really quick. Like, don't worry, you will understand this. This is a video for the chest. I haven't got a video for any of the other ones, but I thought it'd just be cool to show you. 225 it says. So let me, oh, it does work. Woohoo! Holy, it's not loading. There we go. All right. Let's go. It's going to give me some fucking Goy Slop advert. Can't wait. Full screen it so you don't see my search history. Let me full screen it.
What's up? Meditate here.
Alright, it's not very full screen.
We're going to talk about the superficial and the deep muscles of the thorax.
Here we go.
The three parts according to where they originate.
So let me pause it here.
We have the clavicular part, which originates from the clavicle.
Right.
Sternocostal part originates from the sternum and the costal cartilage. And the abdominal part, which originates from the abdominal muscles.
Totally internet speed. Right, anyway, because it's loading, I will just talk it anyway. Pectoralis major, that is your chest. Don't get confused with these fucking scientific names. It doesn't matter. That is your chest, your pectoralis major, the whole thing that's highlighted. Not just the green, the blue, or the green bit, the whole thing. Now, this bit up here that runs kind of upwards is your clavicular. I just got a flashback from fucking ASU frat leader. Clavicular, right? He's actually, funny enough, just come off test because now he looks like a fucking gimp, so that's funny. But this is your upper chest. Your clavicular is your upper chest. Your sternocostal is this blue part here, which is your mid chest, and your abdominal part is the lower chest. Now, most people think that because there's three parts of the chest, you need to do 3 different exercises to hit all of your chest. That's wrong. Instead of looking at 3 different parts of your chest, I want you to look at it as you've got your upper to mid and your mid to lower. 2 different parts of the chest. Now, obviously, anatomy-wise, this is wrong, but to target your chest properly, you've got upper to mid, mid to lower. You only need 2 exercises to actually grow your chest. Now, will it let me come out of it? Yes, it will. That's awesome. Nice. Now, from here, 1 second. Make sure that it's actually recording. There we go, because we want you to actually see this, okay? So here, yeah, again, let me just summarize because the screen might cut off. Mid to lower, you've got your mid to lower chest, 1 exercise. Mid to upper chest is your other exercise. That's all we want you to know. It's that simple. There's 3 parts, but you only need 2 exercises. Now let's move on. Superficial exercises, you heard it talk about it before. What you're going to be learning about the superficial exercises. Superficial exercises are the muscles you can see. They're the ones I'm going to care about. There's so many fucking muscles labeled on here. And you're like, oh my god, I don't know how to cover them all. You don't need to. You need to worry about the muscles that you can actually see. No one cares about the muscles inside of it because you can't see it, okay? So, you need to know what the function of the chest is. This is where it all starts. What is the function of the chest and how do I hit them properly, right? All the chest does, and this is the same for the upper, the mid, the lower, the entire thing, is 2 things. It abducts the arm. It does shoulder flexion, 3 things, and internally rotates the arm at the shoulder. So what these things mean? You know what internally rotate the arm means, right? Do it with me. Fuck, my fucking voice. Internally rotate the arm. When you do this, you can feel your chest pop a little bit. Right, that's what it does. It internally rotates the arm. Shoulder flexion. It will raise there's a fucking table in there. It will raise the shoulder up like this and raise your arm up by flexing your shoulder, so your chest does that, right? And also it add and abducts the arm. Basically, simply what that means is it takes your arms from the midline of the body, so no matter how far away your hands are from the midline of the body, away and back to the midline. Now, add and abduct are very similar words, so you need to understand the differences. And I want you to see, I will give you a lesson from my A-level teacher that told me this. Look at this word, abduct. Where have you heard the word abduct before? When you abduct children, not you specifically, I hope not, but when you abduct a child, you take it away from its environment, its parents, the school or whatever, and you take it to Jeffrey Epstein's island, right? Or Palm Beach Pete, if you will. And so you can use this, right? Take away. Abduct means taken away. So when you abduct the arm, you take it away from the midline. And then adduct is the opposite, so you bring it back in. So that's what the chest does. Internally rotates the arm, shoulder flexion, flexing your arm up with your shoulder, and adducting and abducting the arm. You don't need to remember these. Again, I get mixed up sometimes because they're so similar in words, especially add and abduct. But you just need to know that they do this, and they do this. And then you need to use movements that reflect or mimic these motions so you can target that muscle correctly under load, and then just make sure the load gets bigger so your muscle also gets bigger. That's basically what training is, okay? So what exercises can we do that do these functions so you train your chest properly? Now, I've got them down here. You will do any fly to get full range of motion of add and abduction, right? Because that literally is what add and abduction is a chest fly. You will do any sort of press because you're add and abducting the arm whilst also doing shoulder flexion, because look at my upper arm here. When you come down, it's coming away from the body because you can see the elbow come out. Try not to elbow your radiator when you show people. And then when you come back up, your elbow is coming back into the midline, your arm's coming back into the midline. So you're adding after the shoulder, even though it doesn't look like it because your hands are in a different position, but you still are. And then you're also doing shoulder flexion. When you press, your shoulder is moving and your chest is using your shoulder to move it, to flex, and then do it. And then also when your elbows are tucked, you're internally rotating the arm. So it's fine. That's what you need to do. You need to do any sort of fly and any sort of press to emulate and mimic these movements. Now, how do I target different parts of the chest? Because we know you need to do a press and a fly, but how do we do it, right? Because obviously we said there were different parts. And I want you to know how to target the different parts of the chest based on where these muscle fibers run. Look at these upper chest muscle fibers here. They run upwards. They go up. They run from like this part of your like armpit here, and they run up like that. So that's why you see in incline presses target the upper chest so well, because these run up. That incline, when you hold the weight, is now going to be aligned with the direction of these upper chest fibers because they run up. So that's why an incline is so useful. It aligns the weight, gives your upper chest fibers more torque, which basically means put it in the correct position to lift more weight. And then when you press, you're going to then automatically bias those fibers a little bit more. Obviously, you still use the rest of the chest, right? Because you can't really truly bias one part, but it's going to include this a lot more and therefore cause it to grow. So I think it's beneficial. And then notice, as you now come down into the mid chest and the lower chest, they run a lot more horizontal. So that's why flat presses work really well, because now when you're flat, now they align with the horizontal fibers much more better. These horizontal fibers, the mid chest and the lower chest, are now got better torque, so then they'll be used and biased a little bit more, but it will still work your upper chest a little bit as well. So including both, I think, is very valuable. So I've also included some functions of the chest that are irrelevant, because I knew people will come in the comments and be like, oh my god, these matter, and you've not included that the chest actually, you know, depresses the clavicle, keeping it steady during shoulder movements, and adducts the scapula. It's not really that beneficial. Now, the scapular one is important only for a cue. Just keep your scapula comfy. Whenever you're doing chest presses, a big common myth was like you need to pin your shoulders back and then press, because it like stretches the muscle and then it feels better. You're just reducing the chest range of motion. Because it has an involvement of doing stuff with the scapula, you need to be able to keep your scapula, basically your shoulder blades, free so you can press. So all I would say for that is just press like normal. Don't think about pinning anything back, pushing anything forward. Just press and keep your scapula comfy, and then you can press normally. And then also the fact that it elevates the third and fifth ribs during breathing. You breathe anyway. I hope. I can't breathe. So you'll be fine. So what is the actual takeaway from this, right? To target your entire chest, you need 2 movements, one on an incline and one on a flat, there for presses, and then do some sort of fly as well. So finally, 1 flat press, 1 incline press, and 1 chest fly to hit all the functions of the chest and hit the entirety of the chest, incline and flat for the upper chest and the mid chest, to then cover all bases. 1 flat press, 1 incline press, and 1 fly. That is the basic. You can do an incline fly or a decline fly instead of the incline press, but as long as you're getting 1 flat movement, 1 incline movement, and a fly involved, you'll be absolutely fine. Flying, I wanted to give you some cues though, because it's all right knowing what to do, but it's about knowing how to do it and how to execute it, right? That's so important. I think that's why like my coaching is so valuable. Like I have like free calls in the description which gives you free fitness advice, but my coaching is also so valuable because like you learn how to do exercises properly, which is the most important part. It's all right knowing it up here, but your muscles still have to execute the movement, right? So you need to know how to do it, and that comes with experience that you can get from me via the coaching. So you can check that out if you want. But some cues, right? When you're doing any sort of fly, especially when you are doing it on a machine where you're seated and it's just like flat flies, keep your shoulders down, right? First of all, also, don't have your arms fully extended. Have a slight bend. The more of a bend you get, the worse it's going to be, because as you get more of a bend, you're flexing your elbow. So when you will do a fly, if you're starting here, you're actually going to then be encouraged to move your hands and flex your elbow, which is a bicep movement, not a chest movement. So you're taking away from your chest by moving the weight with your biceps rather than your chest when you are not having straight arms. So have like not perfectly straight, but just a slight bend. And the only way to think about when you're doing it is shoulders down so you can align the weight better. When you can literally feel it. Raise your shoulders, do this, raise your shoulders, and then move your shoulders down like this. Right, keep your arms still. You can feel as you move your shoulders down and tuck your arms in, you can feel your chest activate, because when you move your shoulders down, you're aligning the load better with your mid chest so you can actually train it. So shoulders down, and when you're doing any press, any fly, any movement with your chest, imagine your arms are prosthetic. Imagine from your shoulder, literally here where you can feel like your start your bicep downwards, anything from down here is plastic. You need a blue disabled badge, you're a Hmong, you're parking a disabled bay, you're like that, right? You're disabled from the arm down. And you can only move the weight with the power of your shoulders. You have no feeling in your hands, your arms, because when you do pull with your hands, again, you're going to flex your elbow, right? Which we don't want. So you want to move the weight, including your arms, with your shoulders like this. That is the best cue to have a chest. And the same with presses. Push the weight and your arms as well with your shoulders like that, and you'll get so much better shoulder flexion, so much better ad and abduction. You're going to grow your chest so much more. That's the best cue that I've had for presses for so long, right? And again, you don't even have to prioritize on a lockout. This is the beauty of knowing about alignment. Most people lock out on chest presses, right? But that's not really necessary, because once you get to like this point, you've done the maximum amount of shoulder flexion possible, and this, all you're doing here, is elbow extension, which is a tricep movement. So you don't even have to lock out. Now, if you want to lock out, do it. You get extra tricep growth, sure, go for it. I'm not saying you not to lock out, do what you want. But if you don't lock out, don't stress over it, because again, it's an elbow extension, not a chest movement, right? So that's the entire chest. Look at my big titties. It's probably one of my weak points, I would say, my chest and my entire physique. Triceps are goated. So stick around for elbow extension, guys, because look at my fucking tricep. Christ. And yeah, let's move on to the back. I don't know why the slide's been so weird today. Now, the back is a fucking huge ass fucking muscle with so much bullshit. I've actually got a wider V-taper than the diagram. So come on, the boys, let's fucking go. It's so complicated, and that's where redundancy comes in. Redundancy basically means that you are doing a lot of exercises that do the same thing. So if you do more and more of it, it's like, it's null, it's void. Like you're just repeating the same process, you're getting nothing extra benefit, you're just wasting energy, right? That's what redundancy is. And you see this a lot with back movements because people just think, okay, row. But that only works really the lats or the upper back, depending on where your elbows are, right? You've got so many other parts of your back that you need to train that you're probably missing out on, and that causes uneven development in my back. I would say my back is quite evenly developed, and considering it used to be a very big weak point of mine, like I don't have a picture on here, but bro, I used to look like this diagram flexed. Like I had no V-taper, I was tiny, I was skinny, like I looked like shit, okay? And I've got quite even development in my back now because I know the functions of all the back muscles and I'm training them all effectively. So let's avoid redundancy. It shortens your sessions when you avoid redundancy because you're not doing the same movements over and over and over again and getting no extra benefit. So you're doing less and actually getting more out of it, which is good for revision. You want to do sport, want to socialize, have a life. But also it's very good because then you're not wasting energy. You can put more energy into the workouts that actually matter, the exercises that actually are going to do something. So we'll start off with the lats because that's what everyone knows. These lats here, you've got an upper lats and your lower lats, right? And basically what the lats do is internally rotate the elbow, the arm, adduct the arm and extend the arm. So what does this mean? Internally rotate the elbow, again, same thing here. Doing that, you can feel when you do that, your chest and your back activate. You feel your chest and your back activate because look, they have like the same functions. Internally rotate the arm, adduct the arm, go back, adduct the arm, internally rotate the arm. They have similar functions because they are opposite muscles. They do the same thing but in opposite directions. So don't confuse this for a typo, anything like that. They're just doing the same thing but in opposite directions, so it's fine. They adduct the arm, so again, adduct, not abduct, not Jeffrey Epstein, not Palm Beach Pete, adduct. So they are taking the arm from a position of away from the body, back into the body. That's what the lats do, right? And then extend the arm. So when your arm is in an extended position and you pull from that, that's when your lats are working. That's why lat pull downs are so beneficial because your arms are extended away from you. You can feel your lats like literally burn. Do this with me, like reach for something like in front of you, reach. And you can feel like your lats engage, right? So that's what they do. So how can we then pick movements that target these functions again? Because that's the whole point of this video. So we know that any sort of row, any sort of movement where your arm is extended and internally rotated can be very good. So any form of narrow, elbows tucked row, whether that's in front of you, whether that's from up here and you're doing it like this, whether it's from down there, it doesn't matter. Any sort of row where your elbow is tugged right by your side, you're letting your arm extend out in front of you and pull back with your elbow, is going to hit your lats really, really well. And then also you're missing this adducting part, right? Because your arm is always tucked by your side. So you need to use this function here to your advantage. So another lat pull down where your arms are really wide and you can focus on bringing that arm back into the midline, tucking your elbows into your pockets. Now, I see this all the time. Why do you do lat pull downs with a wide grip? Well, yeah, because you adduct the arm, but you could say any lat pull down adducts the arm. But look, when you have like a shoulder width grip, especially when you've got this grip where it's like you're doing a pull-up, for example, when you pull down, you pull down. Look where my elbows are halfway through the rep. They're flared now, right? Because we were already doing a movement with the elbows tucked, right? We're doing some sort of close grip, lat pull down, some row, right? We're already doing that movement, so this is separate. You want to get your elbows flared because you want to adduct the arm. So you need to then abduct and then adduct the arm again, right? So you get halfway through the rep, your elbows are flared. It looks like a wide grip halfway through. But to get there, you've had to do so much elbow flexion to get to this point where you have to adduct the arm again, that now you've fatigued your biceps and you've just wasted half a movement for no reason. You might as well start from the wide point and just focus on adducting the arms and minimize that fatigue again in your biceps by doing all that elbow flexion to get to that point to actually work your lats, right? So that's why I like the wide grip. When you're doing narrow, you're wasting half the movement by doing that because you're in the same position. Okay, so that's how I think about it. That's why people can't grow their fucking biceps, by the way, because they do fucking pull days and they do these fucking pull downs and all this shit, and naturally training your back will involve elbow flexion and hitting your biceps anyway, but we'll teach how to avoid that in a minute. You're flexing your elbow so much that of course your biceps are going to get fatigued, so when you come around to train biceps then later on in the session, you're fatigued, you can't lift the weight that you usually could when you're fresh, and then you complain why your biceps are small, right? Most people do push-pull legs, they're actually retarded. apart from me, I do push-pull legs in a way, this is a little side point, that is so beneficial. Just swap the arm groups over. So when you do a push day, chest day, do biceps then, and when you do a pull day, do triceps. Because then, when you are doing your chest movements and your back movements, yeah, they're going to involve some of your biceps, some of your triceps, depending on if it's chest day or back day. But then you're not training them right after, you're training another muscle group right after, which is fresh. So you're actually going to get growth out of them. So when you do push-pull legs, if you really enjoy it, and avoid like having a big torso and small arms, I actually have quite an arm dominant physique because I've been doing this for my entire fitness journey, is train triceps with chest. No, sorry, train biceps with chest, train triceps with back when you do push-pull legs. Guarantee you'll see your arms grow loads because they're not fatigued when you train them. It's so fucking powerful. Right, so finally for the lats, 1 hour row, 1 wide grip lat pull down. Simple, I'll teach you some cues in a bit. Moving on to the traps. The traps, what are the traps? These are some devil horn, fucking goy, no, yid, there we go. Fuck, I just died, now you know he just fucking heard that and killed me with a cough, right? God, these are these muscles here. These muscles highlighted in red up here, and you can see them when you flex forward. It's this like tennis ball kind of thing that pops out here. That's what your traps are. And what they do is they fuck around with the scapula a lot, which is basically like your shoulder blades here. This part, your back here, the scapula, when you pull back, when you move forward, it's your scapula moving up and down. Anything like that is your scapula, and your traps are responsible for the majority of the movement there. So whenever you do any sort of shrug, up, down, forward, back, your traps are being moved, right? But also what they do is they raise your arm above your head, right? And this is very important when you do lat raises, right? The reason why, you know, when you do lat raises, especially when you're like shrugging the way up and like using momentum, you actually naturally go higher. Like you'll bring your arm all the way up here. You do feel that in your neck sometimes, right? When you do a lat raise, you go like this and then it comes higher and you're like, oh shit, that actually hurts in my neck. That's because your traps are being activated because they lift the arm above the head. So a little tip for a lat raise when you're training your shoulders, just come to 90 degrees. Get your fist in line with your shoulder, maybe a little tiny bit above it, and come back down. That way you won't feel it in your traps anywhere near as much because they raise the arm over the head, right? So anything to do with the scapula and they raise the arm above your head, how can you use this to your advantage? What exercise should you do? Any sort of shrug, specifically Kelso shrugs are really good. So when you finish like a row, or you could do it separately if you want, focus on having your arms here and you just shrug back. That is it. You just shrug back like that. Bring your scapula together. Don't pull with your hands. Don't move your arms at all. Pull with your shoulders and squeeze that shoulder blade together. Going to move your traps and doing them really well. You can also do them like that as well, but I just think like holding dead weight in your arms is really stressful on the joints of the shoulder. I'd rather just do it at the end of the row while it's on there already. I think it's really good. Now, moving on to the rhomboids, or the upper back as a whole with the teres minor, the teres major, all this shit, right? All this like intricate little muscles here. That's probably why you've never heard of them, because they're quite small muscles and they give you that upper back, that detail. What do? They adduct the scapula. You've heard that word about 10 million times right now. Adduct, they bring together, not abduct, not Palm Beach Pete, not Jeffrey Epstein. They adduct, they bring the scapula together, bring your shoulder blades together, similar to what the traps do, right? And they also spread the scapula outwards and pull them back to the midline. So basically add an abduct. How are you going to achieve this? You're going to do any sort of wide elbows flared row. Just elbows flared row. It doesn't actually matter where you hold it. Probably shoulder width is probably the best. But when you are doing a row, if you were to tuck your elbows and row like this, you'd hit the lats, right? Because they tuck and internally rotate the arm. But if you flare your elbows and do that same row, like this, because your elbows end up in a different position and now they're more aligned to your upper back and now your upper back's gonna have more torque, it will then work your upper back, your rhomboids, your teres major, your teres minor. So that's the power of where you position your elbows. It targets a completely different part of your back. A row is not a row. Where you put your elbows is very important. So flare your elbows out really wide, have a shoulder width grip and row back like this, and you will hit your upper back perfectly fine. Every part of your upper back is fine while just doing a elbows flared row, right? It could be on a T-bar, it could be straight in front of you. Just do some sort of elbows flared row. That's why like rear delt, rear delt pulls. I've never done this exercise, so I don't know why, but that's why this hits the upper back really well, because you're flaring your elbows, okay? And then finally your erectors. This is your entire lower back down here, your erectus muscles here. You can see mine's pretty decently developed down here. What do? They are a hip extensor. So basically, when your hips move back and forward, when you bend your back like this, when you move your legs like that, and your hips are still, your hips get extended, and that's what the erectors do, along with the glutes and the hamstrings. They all extend the hips. So any sort of movement where you're doing this is fine. So a deadlift can be fine. You could hit this on an RDL, or if you want to really target the lower back, do a back extension on a back extension machine where your whole lower body is fixed into place and you're just moving your torso up and down, up and down. And think when you're doing this is a cue for later, because so many muscles extend at the hips, the glutes do it, the hamstrings do it, your lower back does it. It's hard to like not feel it in your glutes or your hamstrings if you want to target your lower back. Or when you're doing RDLs, a lot of problems that people have is they feel it in their lower back a lot. Well, yeah, obviously, because your erectors, your lower back, is a hip extensor. So obviously you're going to feel it in your lower back. So to feel it when you want, imagine that you're pulling with that muscle. So when you're doing a back extension or an RDL and you want to target your erectors, your lower back, imagine when you're coming up from an RDL or you're coming up from a back extension that you're pulling the weight with your lower back. That doesn't mean round your back loads and cause yourself back pain. Keep your spine neutral, but just imagine as the weight's coming up, you're using your lower back to get it up. That just a little imagination of where the stress, where the weight is being pulled from is actually going to target that muscle a lot more effectively. So I would use that to your advantage, right? So we've gone over it. Just to summarize for your lats, a wide grip shoulder reduction lat pull down, this, and now a row is going to be very effective. For your rhomboids, upper back, teres minor and major, an elbows flared row, this will be very good. For your traps, any sort of shrug, like a Kelso shrug, or a shrug like that, is going to be very good. And then your erectors, any sort of back extension RDL that you're doing anyway. That's why I think RDLs are very good, because they target so many muscles at the same time. Like, it's so good, especially when like erectors aren't really a huge muscle in the back. Like, look, it's tiny here. Like, you can get away with it being a bit small, so you don't have to like proper nail down that. You can just do it as a back off when you're doing an RDL, right? So the cues that I've got for these, right? Every single row that you do, whether you're hitting the lats, whether you're hitting the upper back, or whether you're even doing like your Kelso shrug, pull with your elbows. Again, because the back and the chest have very similar functions, they're going to also have very similar cues, because the same thing's going to hold you back because you're doing the same shit, right? Keep your arms prosthetic. Pull with your elbows. Imagine from your elbow down, you've got no feeling, no movement whatsoever. You've got a blue badge, you're a Mongi Pocket Disabled Bay, right? Imagine you're one of those. I'm sorry if you are. I really do apologise. Imagine you're watching this, you're like, I've got no fucking arms, I can't do it, right? But for the majority of people, that's not you. So pull with your elbows. When you pull with your hands, again, you're going to cause this elbow flexion, or you're going to more likely row forward or row back and shit, and it's going to cause loads of momentum being used. Just pull with your elbows. Do this, pull with your elbows, and that way, because the position of your elbows matter so much, you're going to hit your back so much more, rather than pulling with your hands, yanking it, or doing loads of elbow flexion, which is going to hit your biceps more than you want. Because remember, like, you'd be like, oh, hitting my biceps isn't a bad thing, but when you're training biceps later, or you already have, and you're doing too much, and yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? You're doing too much. You want to actually train biceps isolated, okay? And then finally, don't overstretch more. You know when you do a row, right? You see these people do the big stretch like this, and then they come back all the way back like this, right? That's doing nothing for your back whatsoever. The more range of motion doesn't mean anything. Back doesn't grow from something called stretch mediated hypertrophy. So when it's in super overstretched positions, your back doesn't grow from that, which is quite interesting, okay? Now, you don't need to know that, but just know that you don't have to overstretch. Literally, when you're doing a row, come down to like here, just before your arms fully extend, and then row from there. When you overstretch more and get more range of motion, you're actually just moving your hips forward, which is going to allow you then to come back, move your hips back, gain momentum, and row without actually the force of your back, but using the benefit of having momentum. So you're going to grow your back less because you're relying on momentum rather than actually using your back muscles. It's something that we call wastraff energy. Wastraff means waste in Welsh. Energy, I didn't do that well in, no, I got an A star in Welsh, but I don't know what the word for fucking energy is in Welsh. So wash off energy when you do this. Like, don't bother with the fucking overstretch bullshit. You don't need to do it. So yeah, wide grip lat pull down, narrow row, any RDL back extension, and an elbows flared row. That's all you need for your back. Again, every single thing that I'm suggesting here, do 2 sets as a baseline if you have no clue, and do it 2 times frequency. Do the muscle, train the muscle twice per week, and you'll see as much growth as you ever will need. Rep ranges, again, 5 to 9, 6 to 10. Doesn't really matter, but yeah. That's how I would train, just in case you have no idea about the rep ranges or how many reps do I do, how many sets do I do. 2 sets, twice a week, 5 to 9, 6 to 10 as a base point. But again, rep ranges don't matter, but the other 2 do. Let's move on. Shoulders. Now, sorry for the bad photo here. My shoulders look kind of small. I promise my shoulders aren't that small. Like, you can see them here. They're actually not too bad. They're okay, right? So you have 3 parts of the shoulder. You have your anterior, your lateral, and your posterior deltoid. Now, you don't have to know these fancy things. Anterior is front, posterior is back, lateral is side. The way to remember this that I learned was posterior. You know what posterior means? It means cheek, it means buoy, it means you're behind your batty crease, right? So posterior is behind, back, so rear delt. Anterior sounds like posterior, so it's the opposite, is your front delt. And then the lateral delt is the odd one out, so it must be the one on the side. That's how I remember it anyway. The function of your anterior delt is shoulder flexion, lifting the arm forward. Now, we've heard this before, haven't we? That's what your chest does, shoulder flexion. So how can 2 muscles have the same function? How can you target one without the other? How do you not target your shoulders with your fucking chest, right? And naturally, you will. You'll hit some of your shoulder when you do upper chest movements and some of your upper chest when you do shoulder movements. So I wouldn't worry about that. But how do you bias one and not the other? How do you make sure you're hitting the majority of your shoulder and not your upper chest here? And the key is where you put your elbow. I've talked a lot about in this video, torque, and based on where you put your joints depends on which muscle you target, because then the muscle's in a better position to work, so it will work compared to the one that isn't, right? Based on where your joints are. And this is very important. This is why you will tuck your elbows so much on an incline press, because when you tuck them, it aligns with these upper fibers more, puts it in more torque, better position to move the weight. When you flare your elbows, you can feel that your chest gets softer and your shoulders get stronger, which signifies, right, my shoulders are now stronger in this point, it's got better torque, and that's why it'll be used primarily by your shoulders, even though you're still doing shoulder flexion, right? So where you put your elbows is very important. So when you do shoulder press, flare your elbows. Do some sort of shoulder press where you're doing shoulder flexion and flare your elbows super wide so that you can hit that front delt really well. Then you've got your lateral delt, the outermost part, the side bit. This gives you the most vitae because it probably sticks out and points at your physique. Very, very important. It is responsible for raising the arm to the side. What does that look like? Come on, you know this by now. You've been to the gym for a couple of months, right? What does that look like? Lateral delt, lat raise. Come on, just do a lat raise, bro. And again, remember that cue that we said before? Don't raise it too high. Make sure again, or actually we'll talk about cues in a minute anyway. Don't raise it too high. Tell your traps to fuck off. That's why I wrote here. Tell your traps to fuck off, right? Lat raise, do a lat raise, nothing else. Lat raise, simple. Posterior delt, just arm extension and moves the arm backwards, and then also abduction as well. So basically what it does is it extends the arm and moves it backwards away from the body, and it also abducts the arm again. Jeffrey Epstein, POM HP, abducts children, takes it away from the body. So anything where you're pulling the arm back and also taking it away from the body, like a rear delt fly does, both of these, is going to be very beneficial. But that's why also, when you're doing any sort of row, you hit your rear delts as well, because it moves the arm backward. That's what your body does. So when you row, naturally your arms are going backward, so then you're going to hit some of your rear delts as well. So you could either, if you've got big rear delts for your body, you could either just rely on rows, or what I would do as a majority as a baseline, because you're quite new to lifting, you don't really understand if you've got big muscles compared to the rest of you or not. That's something you kind of figure out 4 or 5 years into lifting, is just do a rear delt fly. It's really that simple. Fly like that. Now the cues that I've got for these exercises, because you'll be doing a shoulder press, a lat raise, and a rear delt fly to target your entire shoulder, nothing else. 2 sets per muscle group, 2 sets per exercise, twice a week, blah, blah, blah. The cues that I've got. So for the rows, if you want to hit rear delt fly, if you want to hit your rear delts in a row, same as the rows for the back, pull with your elbows, prosthetic. For rear delt flies for your rear delt, try and cover as much area as possible. And this goes the same for your side delt, like your lat raise as well. Try and cover as much area as possible. Imagine you're like a Jew, right? And you want so much money, right? Because you want to buy your favorite bagel with cream cheese, right? You want to get an investment banking and stuff. You want a lot of money, right? Imagine when you're doing a lat raise that the entire air, all this air around you is just covered in pound, like 20 pound, 50 pound notes, right? And imagine the more area you cover, the more 50 pound notes you touch, you get to keep when you do a rear delt fly or a lat raise, right? So that means you want to extend your arm as much as possible, maybe not perfectly straight, because again, it causes joint pain, but as much as possible, and proper reach out for it. When you do a rear delt fly, reach out to try and get as many 50 pound notes as possible. That's a really big cue that have helped me actually perform a lat raise, because as you bring this elbow in, you are more likely to shrug the weight up, or again, do elbow flexion, which is not going to target the shoulder we want, right? So if you keep your arms extended and try and reach as much area as possible, it's going to be so much harder because the weight's further away from you, but it's going to target that side delt, rear delt so much better. And then a cue for your front delt is when you're coming down, one, have your wrists directly stacked above your shoulders. Have a wide grip so that you see that my shoulder here, I don't know if you can see, my elbow and my wrist are in line. Do that, right? Because then when you come down to the bottom, you're going to be in a stacked position where you feel the most strongest. It's going to give you less joint pain. That's why people like snap their arms, because their wrist is further back and it's not stacked on their shoulder, and it goes bang, bang, snap. There's your arm gone, right? Another thing that I do is just come down to like here. Just make sure that your elbows are just below your shoulders and come back up. This bit here, not going to do much for you. Come down, come down, come down, come down to like there, and then press back up. That's going to be very, very good for your front delts, right? So that's how you do it. Just to summarize, a shoulder press with a very wide grip for your front delt, a lat raise for your side delt, and a rear delt fly or a row for your rear delt. Very, very simple. Now the arms, right? This is fun. You've got the base biceps and you've got the triceps. That is what your arm consists of. Now, the biceps is a two-headed superficial muscle. We know this, right? We don't need background knowledge. It has two heads, but you can't isolate one. So before you say, should I do a preacher curl or a cable curl to the biceps, a short head or a long head? I know you're a fucking retard, because you can't isolate the heads of your bicep. The short head, this one, and the long head, that one, both weight the same from elbow flexion, right? Doing it with a preacher curl compared to a cable curl behind the body doesn't make a difference. You're still going to target each head, the bicep as a whole, the bicep brachii, the same. So just do some sort of elbow flexion where your palm is facing the sky. That's what they call supination, right? When you're like this. That is supinated grip. Do that for your biceps. Now, there's also a different part of your bicep, which is called the brachialis, right? And it also connects to your forearm. So there's a muscle here that runs all the way up here and runs, I think it runs through here and all the way up here as well. It runs all the way along like this, right? And you benefit from doing elbow flexion, and you benefit from training this muscle because it is underneath the bicep, this muscle that runs along here, and like you can kind of see the separation here. Like sometimes you can see it in between. It actually is underneath the bicep, so when you train it like properly, which we'll talk about in a minute, it will push the rest of the bicep outwards and give you a better, bigger peak, which is really good. So train this by doing elbow flexion again, but with a neutral grip, where you're trying to fist bump someone. That's what neutral grip is. Flex like that, and you're going to train this brachialis muscle here, which is going to cause you the bigger biceps and also bigger forearms at the same time, which is quite cool. Remember, because we want to train forearms, they do matter. So elbow flexion, one exercise where you're doing some sort of curl elbow flexion where your hand is supinated, your palm faces the sky like this, and one with a neutral grip when you're going to fist bump someone. That's how you're going to train the biceps the best. And then triceps, did you notice how there's only 2 exercises? Yeah, don't overcomplicate it. When you're doing 10 times different variations of curls, you're being redundant. Again, doing more volume for no reason. You don't need to do that, right? So just pick 2 exercises, 2 sets per muscle group per week, you're fine, right? Triceps is 3-headed, and all the tricep does is extend at the elbow. That's all it does. extend at the elbow. Now there's 3 heads here. This is where it becomes a bit more important because you can target and actually isolate one of the heads compared to the other 2, and that is the long head here. And you see the long head, it attaches at the shoulder and comes all the way down and through and attaches at the elbow as well. That's going to be very important, right? So the whole tricep is going to go from extending your elbow no matter what you do. If you extend your elbows and lock out on a press, you're going to hit your triceps. If you extend and lock out your elbows on a JM press as well, you're going to hit your triceps really well. And that's going to do really, really big wonders for the back of your arm. But hold on one second, bro. I don't want my PowerPoint to die, so I'm going to put my charger in. Ollie, you can edit this out if you want. If you want to keep it in and keep it authentic, I also don't mind. There we go. I don't want it to die halfway through and then like have to re-record this video all over again. Right, let's move on. So you're going to get a lot of growth from your tricep when you extend at the elbow, but when you're doing it through solely presses and JM presses, when your shoulder is moving, you're not going to grow your long head as much as possible. And the reason for that is because it attaches at the shoulder and at the elbow. So when you're doing tricep movements extending the elbow, when your elbow and your shoulder are both moving, you're not going to get much growth from your long head. The long head, by the way, is, you know, when you hold out these things here, the bit that hangs really low, the really big part of the back, your bingo wings, like lunch ladies' bingo wings, for example, like your primary school cafeteria lunch lady, probably have the biggest tricep fat you've ever seen. That's your tricep, that's your long head. And because your shoulder and your elbow are moving at the same time, your long head's kind of got nowhere to go, nowhere to stretch from, and that's why it can't grow, right? That's just how I remember it, okay? So if you can do some sort of elbow extension where one of these joints are still, you're going to then grow the long head much more. So that's why it's very good for you to do some sort of tricep push down as well, where you're keeping that shoulder and upper arm still, so you can push your hand through the floor, extend the elbow and grow the long head. So any form of elbow extension via a press, like a chest press, a JM press, and you lock out the triceps really well, great. Specifically narrower grip, because as you go narrower and narrower, you then have like, it's more in line with your tricep. So when you press, you're doing more elbow extension. And then when you've got wider grip, when you come down, you've got less elbow extension because the weight's further apart, it's got less to travel. When you come narrower, it's got further to go. So then you have to extend your elbow more, which is why a narrow grip is better for your triceps. Sorry for the stutter, I just have to remember how that worked. Again, I just know it. Like, it gets to a point where you just know it off by heart and you just do it and you forget. So that's the benefit of this. Fuck, I can't speak. And then also do some sort of movement where your elbow is still and extending the elbow to hit your tricep. So one tricep push down, one JM press or chest press where you're focusing on locking out with a tucked and narrow grip is going to be very, very good. Now some cues that I've got here for both biceps and triceps. Biceps are quite easy. You just have to kind of like flex the elbow. What I will say is don't go too heavy, don't swing, because that's very easy for you to do. When you swing like this, you're using momentum to get the weight up, and that's not actually going to target your bicep really well. So make sure that your elbow is still and that your upper arm even is still, and you're literally just using your bicep to flex the weight. Okay, that's what's going to be very, very, very good for you, because a lot of people like to brag about how much they curl, but I see it as retarded, because if you can curl a lot of weight, more often than not, because the bicep is such a small muscle and can't then exert much force, because again, the bigger the muscle, the more force you can exert. That's why people bench way more than they can fucking bicep curl, right? I think it's retarded because obviously you're getting that from momentum rather than actually just flexing the bicep. You'll realize that you can curl a lot less than you think when you're just focusing on extending the elbow. So yeah, but some keys for some tricep extensions is when you're doing any sort of push down, you need to keep that upper arm still. And how I would do that is stand like Trump. I bet Donald Trump, right? I bet he's got the biggest fucking triceps possible. $5 billion to Israel. We're gonna bomb Venezuela. Right, I bet he's got fucking sick triceps because he leans forward like this, and that means you get over the weight and your body now can then support your tricep to extend and your elbow to extend. So stand over the weight, and also keep that shoulder fucking still. Tuck it, press it, and depress your scapula down. And then all you want to think about when you're keeping your upper arm still is pushing your hands through the floor. push them straight down. Don't push out, then row back. That's going to be so much easier to do. And you're able to tricep push down so much more weight, but you're not actually elbow extending properly. You're pushing forward. What I want you to do is get the weight and push them straight down into the floor. Push your hands straight down into the floor. You'll see so much growth in your triceps. If you're doing any sort of JM press or close grip press, fucking hell, them dogs are going to scrap out there. If you're doing a JM press, bring your hands to your collarbones and just focus on squeezing at the top. It's that simple. Like, it's that easy. Triceps are very easy. A push down and a JM press, 2 times a week, 2 sets per exercise, done. Right. The worst slide you don't want to fucking see, and the one that takes longest to fucking record, legs. Yes, you actually have to train legs. I'm sorry, bro. Look, I told you my legs are a lacking part of my body. They're still pretty decent. That's not a great photo, I must admit. But they're definitely a lacking part. And again, because legs are such a big muscle, it causes a lot of redundancy. You don't know what exercises to do for each part of the leg. So you end up doing loads of shit that actually does the same fucking shit. So your legs grow unevenly, right? We've all been there. It's okay. My calves are small too, bro. It's fine. We'll start off with the glutes. Right, the glutes, your batty cheeks, biggest muscle in the body. Well-known fact. If there's any girls watching, pay attention, because batty, big bunda, right? Who doesn't want that? Okay. So the glutes are a hip extensor, and they also, other parts of the glutes also are primary abductors of the thigh. So again, hip extension. We talked about this when doing back extensions, doing that, like shagging forward, bringing your hips from obviously extended position or a flex position to now being extended and having your torso in line with your body. Hip extension, fucking like that, right? That's what the glutes do. But also, they are abductors of the arm. Again, Jeffrey Epstein, Palm Beach Pete, abduct the legs. They spread the legs outwards. Like your mum on a Friday night, whee! They bring your legs outwards. So any sort of abductor movement, so obviously on the abductor machine, is going to train your glutes, your glute minimus and your glute medius really, really, really well. But we also want to do some sort of hip extension. So again, a hip thrust or an RDL is going to be very, very good to extend those hips and flex those hips and actually train the glutes. Now moving on to the quads. The quads are the tricep of the leg. They extend the knee joint. So like how the tricep extends the elbow, your quads will extend the knee joint. That's it. And you do this through squats, right? Obviously, when you do a squat, the reason why squats train your quads really well is because when you squat down, you're bending your knee so much, and then as you stand up, your knee is becoming straight again, which is the extension of the knee. But there is a part of your quad. You see this teardrop here? You see that teardrop here? That is called your rectus femoris. Now, you don't need to know what that means, but basically, it is this teardrop muscle here that runs and attaches at your knee, unlike any other muscle of the quad, and it also attaches at the hip as well. Oh, they're both joints. So, when you're doing knee extension, when both joints are moving, you're not going to get much growth from the rec fem because it's got nowhere to go, it's got nowhere to stretch from. It's like the tricep, the long head of the leg. So, you treat it the same. You need to do one sort of knee extension where one of the joints is still. And obviously you can't have the knee still when you're doing knee extension because you're extending and bending the knee. So you need to have the hip still. And the way you're going to do that is by leg extensions. So do some sort of squat and some sort of leg extension for your quads. Moving on to the hamstrings. Again, the hamstrings are a hip extensor, just like the glutes, just like the lower back, but they also are the bicep of the leg. They flex the knee. They don't extend, they flex the knee the opposite way now. So they are a hip extensor and they flex the knee. So what exercises can we do that extend the hips and flex the knee? They are the hamstring curl, because you're curling your hamstring and flexing the knee and extending it and flexing it like a bicep curl for your legs. And then also, again, some sort of RDL where you are, extending at the hips. RDLs are very good. I really like them. So an RDL and a hamstring curl, very, very good for the hamstrings. Then finally, the calves. What the calves do are simple. They are plantar flexion. They do plantar flexion, which basically means that you are pointing your toes down. They push your toes down, get a massive contraction, then come up and push your toes down. If you don't understand how plantar flexion works and you're doing A-level PE, or you're going to do A-level PE or GCSE PE, the way that I remember this, that plantar flexion is pointing your toes down, and dorsiflexion, the opposite, is pointing your toes up, is this plantar. When you point your toes at plants, you're doing plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion, when you're pointing your toes at the door from the ground, obviously if you point something at the door, you're moving them up, is dorsiflexion. So plants, point toes to plants, is plantarflexion, moving your toes down away from you. Point your toes to the door. Dorsiflexion is point your toes up, right? That's how I distinguish the difference. That's how big up Miss Eaton for that one. She was my favourite fucking teacher. Because she was like 26. I'll let you decide what you want to do. Basically, to do plantarflexion, you have to do the calf press. Now, there's a point here about me saying that gastrocnemius covers both the heel ankle joint and the knee joint, but everyone does calf raises with your knee still anyway. So as long as you do any sort of calf press, calf raise where your knee is still, you're going to target the entirety of the calf. Really easy. You don't need any cues for calf press. Just press down to the floor as much as possible, come back up to neutral, press down. Really fucking easy. Now, another point that I actually forgot to do is you could do like single-legged stuff for glutes and get really, really good growth. I actually found when I was doing these studies that glutes prevent you from dropping onto the opposite side with your legs, obviously, just maintain balance. So if this is true and your glutes do that when they from side to side, you can feel them kind of activate, then single-legged exercise is going to be very, very valuable for the glutes because you're working that function. So you can try that out. Do single-legged glute bridges, single-legged glute kickbacks, because again, the reason why a glute kickback, I'm destroying my own house, is so beneficial is because you're moving that leg back and extending that hip. Extending the hip. So you can do single-legged glute kickbacks, single-legged hip thrusters are very good. But a cue that I've got for the glutes as well is just squeeze at the top. That's the only cue I've got. When you extend those hips and your legs go in line with your hips, go in line with your torso, squeeze. Don't just fuck like a virgin figure, oh yeah, that's funny, like a little rabbit. Don't fucking do that. Squeeze at the top really, really hard and squeeze those glutes as much as possible. You'll see more growth. Now, some cues for calves, we decided you don't need any. Cues for leg extensions is, because you need to do leg extensions for the rec fem, the rectus femoris, this teardrop muscle here, is when you're doing a leg extension, one, have the seat so far forward that you're pressed against it like this. You're like pressed right up to the back of the seat and your hips are digging into the seat as well. When your hips come up off the seat, when your hips come up off the seat, you're now doing hip extension and your hips are moving, which means it's not going to be good for your rectus femoris because your knee and your hip are both moving at the same time. Not very good. So make sure your hip is right up against the seat. And when you're doing some sort of leg extension, point your feet, dorsiflex your toes, point your feet to the sky. Have your feet at like hip distance apart, so quite close to each other. Point your toes to the sky during the entire rep and just extend that quad as much as possible. It's going to be very valuable for your quads on a leg extension. Squat, I would just say, if you're trying to bias your quads on a squat, pick a machine. Obviously, if you do like barbell, you can do it, it's fine, it's going to grow you some decent quads. But for me, my hip anatomy doesn't allow me to go narrow stance, which is going to be better for quads because you get more travel of the knee. When your knee travels further, you get more knee extension. So that means that you hit your quads better. I was never able to do that. My hips don't allow me to do that. I have to go on elevated heels. I'd rather just do it on a machine. But if you are going to, make sure to push your knee over your toe. The more your knee travels by going over your toe, the more knee extension you're going to get, the more quad growth you're going to get. So properly push that knee over your toe. The same for Bulgarian split squats, same for anything. Push the knee over the toe. And then finally, you want some cues for RDLs. RDLs is the most confusing bullshit exercise. Trying to teach my mum how to do RDLs, I want to get blood out of a fucking stone. It just won't happen, right? So I want your your feet at hip distance apart. I just spelled out Mike Tyson. Hip distance apart, so quite narrow stance, and I want your feet pointing straight forward. I want you a slight bend in your knees. I'm literally imagining myself doing it right now. A slight bend in your knees, but once you get that bend, keep the knees still, don't move them. And then you're holding, obviously, the weight in your hand like this and they're hanging down. I want you to keep your spine neutral, so don't think about overstretching it this way or bending it forward. That's how you get back pain. Keep your spine quite still and quite comfy. Tuck your chin. And then once you're in this position, you're ready to go. You come down, and as you come down, keeping that spine neutral, I want you to think about pushing your bum and hips back to the back room as far as possible. Instead of coming down straight like this, that's how you're going to cause your lower back to round and why you get a lot of back pain when doing them. Instead of doing that, push your hips back and cause your hips to be the reason why you are moving forward, and push them to the back wall as far as possible. That's going to cause your hip extensors to move more and grow so much more of your hamstrings. And again, finally, what we talked about before, think about where you're pulling from. If you want to prioritize your glutes, pull the weight up with your glutes. If you want to prioritize your hamstrings, pull the weight up with your hamstrings. If you want to target your lower back, pull the weight with your lower back. Whatever muscle you're thinking about pulling with is a muscle you're going to bias more. So that's it. For the entire legs, a hip thrust and an abductor machine for your glutes, a leg extension and a squat for your quads, an RDL and a hamstring curl for your hamstrings. Again, hamstring curls are really easy, you don't need a cue for that, and then a calf raise. That's it. Split them over 2 weeks, 2 sets per muscle group, 2 sets per exercise, and do that. That's easy. Simple, simple, simple. Train legs twice a week. Come on now. There's so many muscles. You need to do it twice a week. Stop fucking skipping them. That's why your legs grow uneven and you have chicken legs and you're small. You'll regret it for the rest of your life, I promise you. Finally, your accessories, your abs, your forearm, and your neck. Now, everyone's here for the abs. Look at my sick chiseled abs here. Almost getting that 8-pack through. It's coming through, it's coming through. But your neck and your forearms are also really important as well. So let's start with the forearms. The intrinsic muscles of the forearm pronate and supinate the arm like this. Supinate, pronate, supinate, pronate. That's what your intrinsic muscles do, but notice how they are not superficial. You can't really see them. And also you do supination and pronation when you do a bicep curl. Like you often go from neutral to that and supinate a lot, so it's fine. All you want to do for the posterior and flexor muscles of the forearm, which is these muscles here, you see them all light up like that, and also the flexor ones here at the back, is flex and extend the wrist. So you want to do one movement where you're doing that and one movement where you're doing that. So a wrist curl where you're going like this, put your elbows on your knees, get a barbell, flex up is a really good one. And then you want to flex them down, go on a cable, drop down, cable like that is also a very good one as well. For your forearms, boom, you hit the forearms in like 30 seconds. Done, done, done. Do 1 set of each, twice a week, sound. And that'll hit your entire forearm. Neck, treat your neck the exact same. You want to flex the neck up and flex the neck down. Treat it like a forearm, you'll see lots of growth. There's so many muscles in the neck, like it's so complicated, there's no need. Just flex it up and flex it down. The way you do that is by holding a plate on your head, flex up, and then hold the plate on your head, flex up like that, just in the opposite range. Actually, you probably only have to do that. Like I probably would actually only suggest you flexing down, right? You can do both, but I would just do that. And a tip that I've got for neck is like teenage acne and like body image is so bad. I had acne when I was younger and it made me so insecure. I hated every single second of it. Every single skincare that I had would work for like a week. I've still got a little bit of spots here and there and it would work for like a week. I'd be like, oh my God, it works. And I'd stop for like a day because I wasn't really that consistent. And then like I get my spots back, and then every time I tried to use the skincare again, it would just get worse and worse, right? I never knew how to fix it. And again, I still don't really know how to get rid of all of my acne at the moment anyway. Like it's so shit to try and deal with acne. You get bullied, you get teased, especially for girls as well, with like your facial image and your body image and your beauty standards. It's so difficult to deal with. So you don't want to make this worse by training neck with a dirty plate on your head, because you're just going to get more acne, right? So the way that I would do this is take a pump cover, take like a beanie or a hat, something thick like wool, something thick pump cover like a jumper, or even a towel. Fold the towel over like 3 or 4 times and put it in between the plate and your head. That way, no dirty plate's gonna touch your fucking face and you can rest it on your head without the thought of, oh my God, I'm gonna get acne and fucking get bullied. You'll have to escape that whole thing. I think that's so valuable for teenagers because acne is a fucking bitch. And then finally, the abs. How do we train the abs, right? Because most people think that, oh my God, we just do sit-ups, right? And sit-ups are gonna get me abs. And yeah, Joe Wicks and his fucking lockdown workouts doing sit-ups, right? No. Your abs do not benefit from a sit-up, because what are you doing in a sit-up? You're flexing your hips. You're training your hip flexors. You want to crunch and hit your shoulders are almost like hitting your fucking pelvis. You want to flex the spine. That is what your abs do. They flex and arch your back and extend like your mum, and then they flex the spine as well. That is what the abs do. So you need to pick one movement that does this. If you want to train the obliques twist. So a quick one. I don't train obliques. You can if you want. It's a personal thing. It's not really that deep. If you want to train obliques, go on the chest fly machine, hold them like this, and twist your torso. Keep your lower body still and imagine moving that weight with your torso by twisting. Going to train your obliques very well. But if you want to train your abs, do some sort of decline or crunch where you can fully flex your abs like this and proper crunch over. A little tip that I've got for these is you don't need any cues for the forearms and the neck. The final cue that I've got for being able to do decline crunches really well, I never knew what to do with my hands. I was like, because obviously where you hold the weight is very important. If you hold the weight above your head, it's gonna be so much harder to do a crunch than if it's out here, right? And I never knew what to do with them, right? Even if I wasn't using weight, I'd be like, what the fuck? If you're not overloading with any weight, put your hands under your lower back. That way, it's going to cause your back to then naturally extend, and now you've got even more range of motion to properly flex your spine like this. You're going to get really, really good spinal flexion. Try and think about getting your shoulders to your hips like this as much as possible, bending your back. You're going to grow your abs so much rather than just doing a random sit-up or a leg raise. Leg raises, they get so viral. They're bullshit. You're moving your hip flexors by doing a leg raise. Your spine isn't flexing. Your spine's straight as a fucking pencil. What's that fucking phrase? Straight as a fiddle. Is that what that is? I don't know. It doesn't train your abs, basically. So do some sort of decline crunch as well. And then if you want to train your obliques, do a twist. So neck curls, forearm curls, up and down, ab crunch. Simple. And that's it. That's it. We did all of the chest, the back, the shoulders, the abs, the biceps, the triceps, the forearms. We did legs, the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, the calves. We've done everything today. Forearms and neck. Everything, right? You now know how to train every muscle so fucking well so you can get jacked and cook a chud. I fucking love that fucking term. Cook a chud. You can get jacked. Look at this transformation, bro. Look at this fucking transformation. 2 years this took me, right? I couldn't even fill out this fucking small school shirt. My fucking neck doesn't fill out my fucking collar properly. Baggy ass fucking fit. No forearms. That's my left arm, to be fair. My right arm might have been a bit bigger back in the day. Back in the day, eh? Fucking hell. But I promise you, I am happier now. Like, look, I'm miserable compared to this photo, but I am happy with my physique, my progress. I feel great about my life. So much. You go from someone that's taking the piss out of his mate's bird, and now you get huge. It's great. You feel so much better about your life. You flexing car windows. People start asking you for advice. There's people hating you right now if you're training because you don't have the results to show it, and it kind of is a bit cringe. But once you make some actual progress, because you will, by listening to this video and more videos and stuff like that, and listening to me, they will ask you for fucking workout plans. And how did you do it? Oh my God, how did you? And that feeling can be so fucking satisfying, bro. You're going to go up so much more in your dating life. You're going to have better friendships, more respect. You're going to get more success in job interviews. You're going to be more successful in studying, everything, right? Because you know all these hard lessons that you've learned from training properly. And this keeps you on the journey. Now, action steps from here. Make the workout routine and choose the exercises that you want wisely based off this video. Maybe even rewatch it and do that. And do stick to the exercises. Do the same exercises on the same days with the same workout, because that's how you're going to track progressive overload and make sure that you're doing it properly. I think that's very, 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 very valuable. And now you're going to be consistent because you train proper. Now you're going to have security in your training, and you're going to stay consistent. Now, there is still a job to do. You still have to make sure you're doing the form correctly and keeping it consistent. That's why I personally like my calls and coaching that I do. The calls are for free for an hour to get free fitness advice, and then the coaching is pretty cheap compared to most people. It's $250 a month. Very, very hands-on. I'm going to take a few people on, and I'm going to help you for an entire month. When you struggle with consistency, or you feel demotivated and you can't really see the weight going up because you're in a cut, or you've got a holiday to prepare for and you don't know how you're going to get in shape for that, or you just have so many questions, right? You're unsure about how your training works, stuff like that. You don't know what exercise to choose. You don't know how to make a workout, how to make a diet plan. I think that's why my coaching is so valuable, because I can give you all that, give you all the answers, and fast track your progress super, super quick. Look, some of you may have holidays in a month, and a month from now, 1 month of coaching, $250. Might be worth you being fucking sick and looking sexy on a beach, bro. You can get that fucking holiday fling, So that's why I think my calls and coaches are so valuable, and I can do all this for you. Now, I'm excited for you to make this transformation, build so much more muscle. I can't wait for you to see some insane fucking growth in this video. Now, go back, Pick the exercises that are going to be good to include in your workout routine. Look at my physique, look how jacked I've got from doing this strategy, and you're going to achieve the same result. Look at me, bro. You're telling me you won't be happy with this physique? Of course you fucking will. So go and train properly, go pick the right exercises, get jacked, and cook a chud. Without further ado, bro, get to cooking, don't be in the chair, be in the bed, and I will see you later.